All right. A couple people have asked me to make a quick little video about my Toronado, so I thought I'd give it a go. This is my 1966 Olds Toronado. Um, my dad gave me this car. He bought it from the original owner back in 1973, and we've had it ever since. Anyways, the car is it's a California car, and it is in pretty good condition right now. It needs some work. Over the years, my dad babied this car, but the years have taken its toll. It it's a California car. This is the original color here on the door. That's the correct frost green color. The interior is like a midnight green, is what it's called. So I thought it was black originally, but when I look at it closely, it's clearly green. And it's not too bad. The interior is in good shape, except for just a couple little things like this here on the seat. I got some material to replace that, and there's a rip in the seat right there, the driver's seat. So I've got the material to do it. One of these days I'll get to that, but that's kind of low on the priority list right now. Anyways, how my dad got this car was pretty interesting. The guy was from California, Long Beach. He worked for Douglas manufacturer, airplane manufacturer, and those things used to come through Newfoundland all the time on their way to overseas. So they sent a representative from Douglas to Newfoundland, and this is the gentleman that owned this car was in my hometown, and my dad noticed this car and ended up buying it off the guy before he moved back to California. So yeah, it's a California car, so it's got all this weird AIR system on it, which I'd like to get rid of, but it seems like it's a bit of a job to get rid of that. You need some parts, and they're kind of hard to find. But I would really like to get rid of it because it's unnecessary at this point, really. And the car needs a paint job. It got one respray back in the early 80s, but it has deteriorated. And we had a small fender bender on this door a few years back, and my dad ended up getting the door painted in the original color just to see what it would look like. Looks great, I think. So I'll go with that same color when I repaint it. But it's got a little bit of rash. This is a little fender bender from many years ago. I get that repaired. I can't get my safety on this car because they won't pass it because of the hole right here in the back. So I'm gonna have to get that fixed. I had to get a whole rear panel welded in because this was completely rusted out. I guess it leaked water into the trunk, and you can see the damage that it did. Hang on, I get a light. So you can see some of the damage. It made the liner wet, and the wetness corroded the pan. So I don't know if I'm going to replace the pan with the original parts out of a parts car, or if I can just get some new panels welded in, or what. It's not good though. A couple of good little holes there. But this whole rear panel here, I had to get this whole rear panel welded in. I got a new one for a man in Las Vegas. So you can see the sort of paint I just threw on there to keep it from rusting, but eventually it'll get painted properly. But he did a nice, guy who replaced the panel did a nice job, welded it in. It's beautiful. Fit nice. Lid closes perfectly. And I got a bunch of spare parts in here. When I first got this car, it had a bunch of things wrong with it. Just stuff that stopped working and never got fixed. The headlights didn't come up. I found the reason for that was this tank here, which is a replacement tank I got off a parts car. The original, the bottom of it underneath was all rotted out. So it was never going to hold vacuum, so the headlights would not come up. As soon as I replaced that tank, the headlights came up. The wiper motor didn't work. I had to take that apart, clean a few connections, and the brushes. I had to reshape the brushes. Once I got those put back together, sitting properly. It ran just fine. What else didn't work? Oh yeah, the kick-down switch was all seized up internally. That didn't work, so I had to take that apart, clean that. Now that works. It had an engine fire. Maybe about 10 years ago. My dad took the car out for a drive, and it caught on fire in the first like 2 minutes of him driving it. And it burnt up a bunch of wiring. He got it out, luckily. He was only a couple of minutes away from his house. And I pulled into a gas station, grabbed the fire extinguisher, and luckily managed to get it under control. But it burnt up quite a bit of stuff. It burnt up the hood liner here, the insulation pad. It burnt up a bunch of wiring. It melted the heater control cable. That melted. And what else was there? It was mostly the wiring that really got damaged. So when I first got it, all that had to be repaired. I spent a good couple of days replacing wires, splicing in new wires with all brand new good stuff. I got the proper connectors from our man in Las Vegas. Replaced all the burnt up, melted connectors, like the heater resistor. All those connectors, they're all new. The wiper motor connectors were melted, so they're all new. What else? All the wiring going through the coil and the wiring going through the kick-down transmission, the transmission switch wiring, that was all melted. All the vacuum lines were melted. So you got lucky. It's all working good now, though. Everything works now. It's all pretty much repaired. I don't have anything that does not work anymore. What did I do with it? When I got it, the water pump was leaking. It was pouring out of it, so I had to put a new water pump in it. Thanks to Joe for helping me figure out which water pump to get. So that was a one and done. Very easy to get the wrong water pump on these cars if you're not paying attention. I put a new alternator in it. New fuel pump. I put a new fuel line in it because they had jerry-rigged the line from when the car caught on fire. It damaged the carburetor, and they put the wrong carburetor on it. And because my dad had 2 or 3 spare carburetors, so they put one on there, and they had to hack the fuel line to make it fit. So I made up a new steel fuel line. All these connectors here were all melted, so I had to get new ones of those. New one for the oil pressure. And what else did we do here? Right, the water valve here. The fire had damaged the internals of the water valve, so that didn't work, so I had to get a new one of those. I'll show you the carburetor here. Different carburetor on this car because it is being a California car. They put different carburetor on it, of course. Yeah, so the fire damaged all these hoses. I had to replace all those. And this is my rebuilt. This is the spare carburetor. This is not the correct carburetor for this car. I'm not quite sure what this is. It's a bit of a mystery what this actually could be. Might be a mixture of a couple of different carburetors. But in any case, for now, it works for me. I'm going to get my original fixed up eventually. I just put a little piece of rubber here on it. When I made this line, I didn't quite bend it exactly right, so it does touch the bottom of the air cleaner. So I just put a little bit of rubber on there just to insulate the line from the air cleaner so it doesn't rub through. Next time I take the carburetor off, I'll just tweak that so it's not touching anymore. So yeah, the exterior is pretty good. like I said, it's only the classic trunk rust on these things that got me. There's a little bit on this cowl. I took this cowl off. It's only on the cowl. It's not in underneath. So that's good. What was the other? Oh yeah, the horns didn't work when I first got it. Had to replace that horn relay in there. That was completely, the coil inside was just sitting inside the case. It wasn't ever going to work like that. So got a new one of those. The horns had to be rebuilt. I took them apart, cleaned them up. They work again now. I did when I had the valve covers off because the gaskets were leaking, so the oil was dripping down on the exhaust, making a humongous mess, and it stunk. I took those valve covers off, painted them up, and I painted the intake manifold while I was in there, so it looks pretty good. They don't leak anymore, luckily, so no more smoke towering out when you start the thing. I will do a cold start in a little bit because there's some exhaust noise. Could use some advice on. Not quite sure what the sound would be indicating. Maybe someone else might know. Yeah, the last few things that I need to get done are the play in the steering wheel. I'm not quite sure what's causing the all the play, but I've got new tie rod ends. Sorry, no, I don't have new tie rod ends. I have to do the tie rod ends. But I've got new pitman arm. I got a new idler arm. It's got all new upper and lower ball joints, all new wheel bearings. I did the wheel bearings in the front and the rear. But the play on the steering wheel, I'm not 100% sure what that is. It's not centered either. So my dad got the pitman arm replaced. Ever since then, the steering wheel hasn't been centered. But it's this play in the steering wheel. I'm not 100% sure where it's coming from. Maybe it's in the steering box. I've heard that you can tighten those up, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty new to all this. I'm learning it. I never worked on a carburetor before, or a carbureted car before this. This car came to my possession 2 years ago, so I'm learning the ropes with lots of help from people online. I made a few dumb mistakes along the way, but nothing catastrophic. And my next project with this car will be to get some of this body damage fixed. I need to get the safety so I can get my plates. Still got the Newfoundland plates on it. Now, free tip Tuesday for you. All you Americans watching, because most of us Canadians know how to say it properly. But if you want to say want to pronounce the province Newfoundland correctly, Newfoundland. Newfoundland. None of this Newfoundland stuff and New Finland and stuff we hear online. Newfoundland. You want to impress some Newfoundlanders. If you ever meet one. If you can remember that little tidbit, they'll love it. Anyway, yeah, there's lots of surface rust. Paint job is in my future, which kind of scares me. I'm sure it's going to cost me a fortune to paint this car. Far more than anything else has cost me thus far. But, I didn't pay anything for the car. My dad gave it to me. My dad's still with us. He's very interested how this turns out. He just moved into a condo and kind of lost his taste for kind of looking after this car. But it never saw winter. It was always stored. So up in Canada, that helps a lot. The cars just don't last in the salt, in the winters and stuff. But oh yeah, this here melted too. This little plastic thing. I had to get a new one off our man in Las Vegas. I'm going to do the wiring with the correct electrical tape eventually, but just to satisfy my visual OCD, I suppose you could call it. I just put the convoluted tubing over the wiring for the time being. That's it's just on there just to make it look neat and tidy, and it's easy to remove. So I just stuck it on there, make it all presentable. Because all my wiring repairs are all hidden under that tubing. It's got original AC, which it the compressor runs, everything turns on, but it doesn't blow cold. I'm assuming it's either lost a bit of its charge. But I did put the gauges on it a while back, and there was actually still pressure in the thing. And a bunch of oil and stuff came out when I undid the fittings. So there is still pressure in there. It's holding some kind of pressure. I guess it needs refrigerant. See if I can track down some R12 secondhand, on the secondhand market, I should say. It's pretty original. There's not much been hacked on this car. For the most part, it's been pretty well kept. Like I said, I had to fix a bunch of stuff when I got it, but the stuff that was on there was so damaged. There was no way to save that stuff. It took me a little bit to figure out what I needed and get my parts, but now that I've got everything fairly well put back together, it's pretty good. And still a couple more things. I was going to do the inner and outer tie rod ends, get those just done. These are all original parts, right? So the original ball joint, original tie rod ends, everything is original. It only lasts so long, I guess, so it'd be nice to have just some new stuff. Hard to figure out which parts to get, but I'm getting there. And what else? So yeah, I'll do a cold start on this car. I want everybody who's knowledgeable just to hear the engine, just to make sure that I'm hearing the exhaust leak correctly. I did put 2 new exhaust donuts in the exhaust manifold. So maybe they're the incorrect ones, possibly. Or maybe I got something else going on. I don't know. I'll let you guys hear it shortly. And what else did I do? Oh, the interior. Yeah, that's right. The panel, the instrument panel, was completely flaking. That wrinkle paint. So I took the panel out and redid all that. It actually looks very good. Let's see. It came out looking spectacular. And I put the Wonder Bar radio that we had, it was an AM FM. This one came with an AM. So I put the FM radio in, or the AM FM radio in. That works really well. Oh yeah, the fuel gauge and the temperature gauge did not work. The amps gauge did not work. These were all problems I sorted out while I had the instrument panel out. The new fuel sender was required. The temperature gauge had a loose connection on the back of the panel, and the amps gauge just needed cleaning. That worked. The clock just needed to clean the points in the clock, and that works again. That works perfectly fine. And oh yeah, there's my sway bar bushings that I'm going to do shortly. The carpet is in okay shape. Could use a cleaning. I think I'm going to replace it. And underneath that seat, I had the seat out recently, and some of the water from the trunk got into the bottom of that seat there and has rusted the bottom of the floor pan. It's not too bad. I'm going to clean that up and paint it. And maybe I can get some new carpet if possible. Stick that in there. Clean up the floor. I'm sure the floor's got a bit of rust as well. And eventually I'll get there. The interior is kind of taken, I'll get to this kind of last. But it's still in good shape. This was actually our family car when I was a kid. I was born in the 70s. And we first got this car in the summertime. This was our family car. So that's why it's a little bit special. Just a few little things to sort out before I get it painted. God only knows what that paint job is going to cost me. It's kind of scary. yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed my little clip here. I've got the original check that my dad wrote the guy for the car. He paid $1,800 for this car back in 1973. Unbelievable. That's what the check is written out for. And I've got the original Protecto plate. That's over there in the glove box. And it's got the original owner's information on there. Even his address is on there. It's crazy. And, oh yeah, over here in the carburetor graveyard, I've got, here's my original 1966 carburetor. This is the one that came on it, which of course is different. That's different from the standard one. This is the top on it here. So this is the original part number is, sorry, the 49 state carburetor is a 702-6250. This is a 703-6250. Some very small differences. I wonder how much it matters. In any case, this carburetor is just, it might be unsalvageable because the float bowl has been deteriorating. I don't think it's anything we did, but the metal is just falling apart inside. It's flaking. It's hard to describe it, but it's just going away to nothing. Anyways, I got a core. This is a 702-6250. I don't know how much difference there will be, but I will put all the parts that I can from this carburetor into the replacement core and get this one completely rebuilt by one of the good Quadrajet rebuilders, so I can kind of have a good carburetor and move on. It's nice to have the spare backup carburetor that's on the car, but this is going to be the real deal. There's the carburetor that they did put on the Toronado after the engine fire. This one is all wrong. That's the wrong carburetor. I used it to practice rebuilding a carburetor because I had to kind of rebuild the other one. So I used that one as kind of my practice, and then when I got confident, I went on to the other one. So this one is going to be a job for maybe next year, possibly. I'm not sure. Whenever I get the money, I've got all the parts, everything I need to make a good original carburetor. I would like to get a 67 carburetor because they fixed a bunch of the design flaws inherent in this original. But they're not easy to find. It's a 1 year only deal. So it's complex trying to figure out the best way to approach it. But for now, I'll just get this one done. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'll do a quick little cold start here now and see. It seems to only kind of be loud when it's idling. So I'll show you. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.